UFC 255, Figueiredo versus Perez takes place this weekend, and I'm going to go through the entire card, starting with the early prelims, ending with the main event, giving my prediction and breakdown for every single fight on the card. Now, I know a lot of people are talking bad on this card, saying that it's not going to sell any pay-per-views. I agree with you guys. I think this card is probably going to sell around 100k pay-per-view buys, and that's being very generous, in my opinion. However, the card itself is a very, very good card, and the prelims of this card, in terms of how many fun matchups there are, it's better than some of the fight nights we've seen this year, so I'm not even going to complain about it. I'm going to start with the early prelim opener of Koskey versus Sasha Politnikov. I don't even know if I'm pronouncing Lewis's surname correctly, but he's one of the Koskey brothers. I'm just going to make it up as I go along. The Koskey brothers on the Contender Series, both of them got good wins, both of them are 7-0. Orion Koskey was supposed to be on this card as well, but now Koskey is the only Koskey brother on the card, proving once again that he is the favourite child, because his brother Orion had some close fights and took guys to grinding decisions or third round finishes, but Koskey, he gets it done straight away in the first round. However, I will give Orion this kind of credit. He has fought much better competition than his brother Lewis, because his brother Koskey on this card, don't get me wrong, this is an absolute feeder of a fight. They are spoon feeding, in my opinion, Koskey, this poor guy in Sasha Politnikov, who is dangerous, don't get me wrong, but 5-2 against not too many good competition opponents, has been KO'd by lesser guys than Koskey, in my opinion, twice out of his 2 losses, both of them finished by TKO. I don't like this matchup for Politnikov whatsoever, so I will not only be picking Koskey to win, I'll be picking him to win by first round TKO, but I do want to say this. He has fought not very good competition so far, and his last win on the Contender Series against a guy 11-4 was a big eye-opener, because until then, we'd seen him face a guy 4-4, 4-8, 18-42, 0-0, 2-3, 6-4. 6-4 to have honestly, fighting a guy with 10 fights who's 6-4 in your debut is actually not too bad, but we saw in his Contender Series bout that he can jump to that next level. I'm going to trust him to do that against Sasha Politnikov, because this is an easier fight than his Contender Series one, which makes no sense to me, guys. We're supposed to be the UFC. Some guy gets out of the regionals and on the Contender Series, and now he gets easier competition in the UFC. It's a very strange thing that we're doing recently, but we're trying to build these names, and they've done exactly what they need to do. Koskey's going to get a first round KO. That's how I'm going to pick him to win. Moving on up the card to our next fight on the early prelims, Dalkaus versus Dustin Stoltzfus. Amazing fight to have. Dustin Stoltzfus, a savage, also a guy off of the Contender Series. Same with Dalkaus as well, actually. I'd be surprised how many fighters from the Contender Series are on this card, but so far, so good. Dustin Stoltzfus on the Contender Series a couple of months ago. Didn't really win his fight, but he won his fight in the same way that Kevin Holland beat Charlie Ontiveros. Dustin Stoltzfus beat his opponent. I understand why. He's in the UFC. I mean, normally on the Contender Series, I don't think they would give him a contract, but he's proven himself so much on the regional scene against good competition that I guess they just have to accept him. He's coming into his prime. He's just before his prime. If they're going to sign him, it had to be now. On the Contender Series, I don't know if you guys remembered, but the guy, he slammed a guy, he dislocated his arm. It was a brutal injury, and he ended up getting signed from it. But to be fair, he was doing good, and he probably would have won that fight anyway. He's 12-1, 13-1 now, sorry. Great record, beat some good opponents. So has Dalkaus. Now, I know that Brendan Allen just had an absolute pooper of a performance against Sean Strickland. However, Dalkaus is a very good opponent. I was judging Dalkaus based on how close he made the grappling look against Brendan Allen, because the grappling game of Brendan Allen is what he's so good at. But he went out there against Strickland and marched into punches and tried to box and kickbox with him, which is not going to work with a guy with the level of boxing of Strickland. But still, Brendan Allen goes out there, makes this Dalkaus not look as good as maybe he was conceived to be beforehand by going to a close decision with Brendan Allen. But in the grappling, on short notice, I know he had a fight booked as well, but I don't see it anywhere on Tapology. I've tried to look for this mystical, Dalkaus had a fight booked and then he switched into the Brendan Allen one. I haven't seen it. Maybe he knew about a fight that was going to be booked and it wasn't officially actually made, so he was just getting ready for something, but he seemed in good shape. I think he's going to do much better now on a full camp. He's beat good competition opponents. I just notice a difference in the competition that these two guys have faced. Don't get me wrong, Dustin Stoltzfus is a dangerous guy, and if you make a mistake, he will latch onto something and get the job done. However, submission game against Dalkaus, I don't think you're going to be submitting Dalkaus, in my opinion. I just don't see that happening. He's got great scrambles, great grappling. He got put in multiple bad situations against a giant guy in Brendan Allen who put him in a bunch of them. Really bad situations on the ground, but Dalkaus stayed calm, scrambled out of them. I think if he can do that with a guy like Brendan Allen, he's going to be able to do it with a guy like Dustin Stoltzfus. But I have noticed, on their resume, Stoltzfus has wins against good guys. 9-4, 20-7, not the best guys in the world, but good wins. You know what I mean? I'm willing to accept that. Those are some good wins. A positive over 2-to-1 ratio, win-loss ratio on some of these fighters that he's taken on. I don't mind them, but still, Kyle Dalkaus, 12-2, 8-1, 9-4, 12-5. One thing I want you guys to know about, though, is when you look into the records further, Inception-like, you know what I mean? Like, we go into the record, then we go into the next record, okay? I mean, you go into Dustin Stoltzfus' record, you see that he's beat a guy who's 9-4. Then you check the 9-4 guy, who's now 9-5, hasn't fought since. He was on a 2-fight losing streak. I don't like that. When guys take on their big testing competition, I don't like it to be cherry-picked against a guy who's now on an absolute losing streak against guys that he can't hang with. And Nivahad Nasuvov was one of those guys. Nasuvovic was on a 2-fight losing streak. Then you look into his fight with Jonas Bilsteins, who was a good fighter at the time, had a decent record, 20-7. Really good record, right? Then you look at his record. He was coming off 2 losses in a row. He was coming off a KO loss just a month before that fight. So I don't like the wins of Stoltzfus as much as I do the wins of Kyle Dalkaus, because Dalkaus has fought guys 8-1 that are on win streaks, 5-fight win streaks on some of them. Other guys have been on a couple fight win streaks as well, and he's snapped that streak. He's fought one guy who's coming off a loss in his last 4, so he's a really good fighter. He's beat good competition, and he's beat them on a roll. I'm going to be picking Kyle Dalkaus to get the job done over Stoltzfus. I just really do believe he's going to get it done. Moving on, up the card. So I've got Kyle Dalkaus. I think he'll win the fight, and I'll give a specific here as well. I think he'll win the fight by... There'll be a lot of moments where there'll be close submission attempts, but I think Dalkaus is going to secure himself the better positions in the grappling and win this fight for himself. 29-28, unanimous decision. Competitive back and forth, but I think Dalkaus has got the advantage in the scrambles. Moving on up the card, Alan Joban versus Jared Gooden. Joban versus Gooden, a great matchup. I know Joban's coming back after a long time. Hasn't fought since April of 2019, I want to say, and that's a very long time to take out of the cage, especially right now where activity seems to be key in a lot of fighters' successes. They always seem to be turning right back around and wanting to get back in there and taking advantage of the fact that there's a lot of fighters right now sitting on the sidelines, because I'll tell you this, there's going to be a lot of top contenders coming back to a division that they don't even recognize by the time this entire quarantine era is over. But still, Alan Joban coming back after a long time off. I think he's going to get KO'd stiff in the first round by Jared Gooden. Really badly. I like Alan Joban. Don't get me wrong, he's a good commentator, he does good analyst work here and there. I don't think he's going to be beating Jared Gooden. Jared Gooden's on a roll right now, 17-4, 26 years of age, nowhere near his prime, sorry, I was about to say in his prime, like he hasn't even reached his prime yet, still got so much to improve on, has been very active as well. I mean, he's fought 5 times since Alan Joban's last fight, and don't get me wrong, he lost one of those fights by TKO to Bruno Oliveira, who was 7-1 at the time, but he beat 4-1, 8-4, they're not the best wins in the world, don't get me wrong, but he's beat some good guys. Stephen Newell, who was 9-0 at the time, a good fighter coming up on a win streak. He's proven that he can beat good guys. I just don't think that Alan Joban is going to come back after such a long time off, especially knowing that Joban has been KO'd plenty in his career. Okay, we've seen a couple of times that Joban's been KO'd. He got KO'd by Nico Price quite badly. He got KO'd as well by another guy I can't quite remember the name of. I want to say a Russian gentleman by the name of Albert Tumanov, but not a bad fighter. Don't get me wrong, these aren't bad fighters to be losing to. But even in his fights where he gets rocked badly and then he has to come back, like the last win he had was against Ben Saunders. Before that, Mike Perry. But Bilal Muhammad is a good win, but I feel like the thing is, we're noticing here, those were all when Joban was a little bit closer to his prime. He's getting up there in age now, 38. I know Glover can do it at light heavyweight, but when you're in the welterweight division and guys have got the power that they do, I value reaction time massively. And in Joban's last fight against Dwight Brown, I thought he maybe could have won that one, maybe could have lost it, split decision, could have gone either way. He seemed very gun-shy, extremely gun-shy, and I know he said that he got robbed in that fight, but still, you really didn't do anything, Joban. I think he's going to get cracked square on the chin against Jared Gooden just by him being more active, being more switched on early. He's a dangerous guy with power, and if he doesn't get it done in the first round, he has finishes in the third. I mean, he's got a flying knee finish in the third round. He's got a Superman punch finish in the third round. I think he's going to get the job done. Jared Gooden by KO in the first round. Moving on to the prelims. Daniel Rodriguez versus Nicholas Dalby. You see what I mean by this card? It's amazing. Rodriguez versus Dalby is on this card. Originally, Dalby was supposed to be taking on a Ryan Koskey, which I thought he was going to lose as well. But still, I don't like Dalby anymore. I used to like Dalby. I've watched a lot of his fights, and I know he's got some good wins. Well, he hasn't got really too many good wins. In my opinion, he was gifted a decision against Oliveira, even though he won the fight on the decision. If you watch that fight again, Oliveira had him down in the third round, and it looked like Dalby was not going to be able to get back up, and the referee jumped in. So, by the way, this was in Copenhagen. Just going to throw that one out there. This was in Copenhagen. He would have lost to Alex Oliveira, in my opinion, if that referee didn't jump in so early in the ground control sequence, and then all of a sudden, Dalby's got top position and he's controlling the rest of the round to a unanimous decision win. I don't like it. I think I'm going to pick against him here. He last came off a KO to Jesse Ronson. It wasn't a KO, but it basically was at the same time. He got KO'd, brutally beaten up on the ground, and then eventually Jesse Ronson sunk in the rear naked choke. But it wasn't just that he got clipped. This wasn't like Dalby was looking good, destroying Jesse Ronson, and then just got clipped on the chin. This was Dalby who was looking really fucking bad. Really bad. Okay, and I did not like it. And Jesse Ronson is a guy, if you're going to be going out there and beating D-Rod, you've got to make short work of Jesse Ronson. I think D-Rod's good at moving backwards. Dalby has a reckless coming forward kind of style. He likes to pressure guys up against the cage, get the clinch, go for some takedowns, who knows. But he likes to fight going forwards, puts a lot of pressure on people. We've seen in D-Rod's fight against Gabriel Green not too long ago that he can fight going backwards and light people up going backwards as well. I mean, D-Rod is an amazing fighter to watch. We've seen that he can come back from being hurt against in his last fight. Dwight Grant cracked him square on the chin. Daniel Rodriguez came back and got it done. A lot of people say that they should have given Dwight Grant a little bit more of a chance to recover, but he slumped down. I thought he was out cold, and if he didn't get the fight stop there, he just would have been pummeled unconscious, in my opinion. But still, a dangerous fight for both guys, but I think Daniel Rodriguez is just going to piece him apart and get the TKO finish in the first or second round. In my opinion, this is going to be a really fun card with a bunch of good finishes. I'm definitely going to be going with Daniel Rodriguez to get the job done by first or second round TKO, and then if he wins this one, move him on to someone just outside the rankings, and if he wins that one, it's time to jump him towards the top 15, because in my opinion, we haven't got much longer left of Daniel Rodriguez. He's 33 years of age. He's going to be 34 in December. Time's running out. We got to get going. Unless he's Glover Teixeira and he's got a second prime coming along at the age of 40, then I don't see that happening in the welterweight division. I need to rush Daniel Rodriguez up. I think he gets a quick win here against Nicholas Dalby by TKO. Moving on, up the card to our next fight on the prelims. Antonina Shevchenko, Ariane Lipsky. Good fight. Entertaining for different reasons, I'm sure we can all agree. Not just for the reasons of skill, of course, but for other, more personal reasons that we're just going to, just set things up ready for the fight. But Antonina Shevchenko versus Ariane Lipsky, great fight to happen. The Violence Queen versus the forgotten Shevchenko sister. That's not really the pride and joy of the family, but you know what? All good. Antonina Shevchenko, dangerous girl, good fighter. Ariane Lipsky, a lot of people are going to be a little bit biased by her recent performances, but she hasn't really been doing it against too good of competition. I was kind of swaying here, but I am going to go with Antonina Shevchenko. She's lost to much better girls in the division. Ariane Lipsky came off 2 wins in a row against a girl who was 6-1 that we really didn't even know anything about. Ended up getting a submission in the first round. Went to a decision against a guy who was 5-1. I say guy, sorry, a girl who was 5-1. Molly McCann beat her by unanimous decision. That's what I don't like, because I've seen Molly McCann get just handled by Taylor Santos recently. I don't like that now, because I used to think quite highly of Molly McCann. It's kind of dipped a little bit in my credit to Molly McCann. That kind of downgrades my expectation of Ariane Lipsky, but she's dangerous. If she had more takedowns in her game, I might pick her here, but she doesn't really shoot takedowns. Even though she got the submission against Luana Carolina, she wasn't awarded a takedown in that fight. Carolina went for a submission and got submitted herself. I am going to be going with Antonina Shevchenko. She got handled by Chukagian, but Chukagian is pretty good, and I think that's a much more acceptable acceptable loss than Molly McCann is anyway. Also lost a split decision to Roxanne Modafferi, which is never good, but it's Roxanne Modafferi, so she somehow wins fights despite being terrible. All good. I'm definitely going to be going with Antonina Shevchenko to get the job done over Ariane Lipsky by unanimous decision. I don't see there being a finish because Lipsky's pretty tough. Hard to finish as well. I don't think she's ever been finished in her career. She got KO'd once in her career, but that was all the way back in 2014, has not been finished since then, and has fought a bunch of times since then as well. I think Antonina Shevchenko's going to piece her apart on the feet, and yeah, Ariane Lipsky just doesn't shoot enough takedowns for me. I need to see that threat of a takedown and great grappling game if you're going to pose any kind of threat to Shevchenko, because even Chukagian, who's a girl who loves to strike, was ended up taking down Shevchenko to get herself the win. I'm going to go with Antonina Shevchenko, getting the job done by 29-28. No. 30-27, unanimous decision, edging out every round by outlanding Ariane Lipsky on the feet. Moving on up the card to our next fight on the prelims, Joaquin Buckley versus Jordan Wright. Great fight. Amazing fight. Joaquin Buckley, 11-3. Dangerous, man. Okay, very dangerous. We saw his KO against Impa Kasanganay, but lest you guys forget, he was on the receiving end of a highlight reel KO by Kevin Holland not too long before that, and he's lost some fights in his career. Of course, those were some good fighters. Kevin Holland, Logan Storley is another guy that he's lost to in his career as well, but I like Joaquin Buckley. Of course, there's been a lot of stories going around about Mr. Buckley, about how not so nice he is, let's just say, in the sparring and the gym. So he's been kicked out of a few gyms, but that's okay. He's lost to good opponents. Jackie Gosh, 5-0. Logan Storley, 7-0. Got KO'd by Kevin Holland, who's 17-5. The fact that he's been KO'd twice worries me against a guy like Jordan Wright, who's so wild. I'm just not going to be picking Jordan Wright to get the job done. Cutting down to the first time at middleweight from the light heavyweight division, that means there's going to be a bit of an adjustment period to get used to the speed of things. I don't like him having an adjustment period in the first round against Joaquin Buckley. I think Buckley's going to catch him on the chin early with a big haymaker, hooks over the top. Jordan Wright's just a little bit green in my opinion, has not fought good competition yet in his career. We're lost to Anthony Hernandez, who was 6-0 on the Contender Series, got beat up pretty badly by him. Beat a guy who was 7-3, before that 1-2, 0-0, 0-10, 0-21. Giga Chikadze levels. You know what I mean? 0-0, 0-0, 0-5, 0-0, 0-21, 0-10, 0-0, 1-2. And I know a lot of people tell me, when you look at these guys that are can-fed, you can't just judge them off of that because you haven't seen them against the top talent yet. I don't have to see them against the top talent. The fact that he fought a guy, once he was 4-0, his manager and his team around him put him against a guy who was 0-21. Then when he was 5-0, they put him against a guy who was 0-10. When he was 6-0, they put him against a guy making his debut again. It shows a lack of confidence. So what they're seeing in the gym is not a guy that can go out there and take on a 6-2 guy on the regional scene. They're really can feeding him, and that tells me a lack of confidence from his gym, because I know that Joaquin Buckley, in like his 6th ever fight, was in Bellator taking on dangerous guys, and yeah, getting KO'd, but it shows me that his gym at the time, I don't know what gym he's at now, because he's been kicked out of all of them, but still, shows me that they got confidence behind him. Then fought Logan Storley when he was 8-1. This is a different level of competition, and he's also had a chance to learn from his mistakes, which I don't think Jordan Wright has had to do yet. Even his win against Ike Valenweva, he had a wheel kick that dropped him, landed some knees before that, but if that cut did not happen, I would not be surprised. We saw Jordan Wright starting to slow down a little bit. I wouldn't have been surprised if EK came back and mounted a bit of a comeback there. I am going to go with Buckley, catching him in the first round. Wright's going to have to cut a lot of weight to make middleweight, and it's going to be a little bit of an adjustment period, as I said. Even though he's fought a middleweight before, I'm going to go with Buckley getting the job done by a quick haymaker KO finish in the first round with the punches. I like Jordan Wright. I think he's going to get caught for going for something stupid. Maybe he'll go for a knee up the middle and get caught with a big haymaker over the top. Good fight, though. I'm going to go with Buckley by TKO. Moving on up the card, Brandon Moreno versus Brandon Royval. It's a battle of the Brandons. I'm looking forward to it. I don't know why this is on the prelims, but still. Yeah, it's a title elimination bout, but they don't see it as a title elimination bout because they're still going to give the title fight to Cody Garbrandt, which really does annoy me. However, I am going to be picking Brandon Moreno to get the job done against Brandon Royval. I think he will win the Battle of the Brandons and take home his first name as a prize. He's got a 70-inch reach for the flyweight division. Crazy reach, and it's something that Brandon Royval is not going to be used to. Brandon Royval, very good fighter, coming off a big win against Kai Kara France not too long ago. In fact, only 2 months ago, he was taking on Kai Kara-France, less than 2 months ago as well. He got hurt in that fight, cracked, knocked down, wobbled a second time as well. It eventually got the job done, but I don't like the damage that he's taken. And I also don't like some of his other wins. Yes, he got the big win against Tim Elliott, but he's had some rough fights in his career when he was earlier, upper division. I just feel like Brandon Moreno is going to be too rangy, too long, and I think that Brandon Royval is going to keep getting tagged, trying to cut the distance, because Brandon Moreno's performance against Kai Kara-France can't be ignored. He's very active, he's fought good guys, he's also very young, so he's going to make a bunch of improvements. This isn't an old top contender taking on the young up-and-comer. Moreno's still 26 years of age. He's been in there with the best of the division. I think he's got better credentials and experience than Brandon Royval. I understand wholeheartedly why people would pick Royval in this fight, because he's the great underdog that we're looking for, but I don't think he's going to get it done against Moreno. I haven't seen any sign of weakness in the chin of Moreno in his career. He was always taking good shots. I thought he beat Askar Askarov as well, which shows defensive grappling game's pretty good. We saw that against Hussier Formiga as well. I just haven't seen Royval take on the guys that I've seen Moreno take on in that flyweight division. He's beat Kai Kara-France. Both of them have. Royval, you could argue a little bit more impressively, but then again, Moreno didn't get knocked down by Kai Kara-France, so say what you want there, but Moreno's beating guys like Askar Askarov, Hussier Formiga. You know, these are good wins to have in the division. Like, he's even in his earlier part of his career beat bantamweights like Lewis Smolka by guillotine choke when Smolka was 11-1. Like, he's beat great guys. I think he'll get the job done. Had a good fight with Sergio Perez as well. Perez beat him over 5 rounds. But you know what? I'm definitely going to be going with Brandon Moreno here to just outclass Royval slightly each round towards a 30-27 unanimous decision win. I think he gets the job done. Royval's dangerous. I just question in my heart at flyweight, how long does that wild style last? When Brandon Moreno's picking you apart with a jab from the outside with his much longer range, I think he's going to get the job done against Royval. 29-28, maybe lose the first round. That's my official prediction. I think Moreno will get it done. I said edge out each round. I think Royval might get the first one because Moreno has a little bit of a warming out period in the first round. I just don't see him getting KO'd by Moreno, and I definitely don't see him getting finished by Moreno either. He hasn't ever lost a pro fight by finish in his entire career. I don't see it happening now. I think that he'll get the job done by 29-28 unanimous decision win. Who knows with the judging nowadays, but I'm definitely going to go with Moreno getting it done. Moving on up the card to the main card. It's a decent main card. It's not the best in the world. It's not going to draw too many pay-per-views, as I said before at the start of the video, but still a good main card. Shogun Hua versus Paul Craig kicks us off the rematch that we've all been waiting for. You guys wanted Khabib versus Tony Ferguson to happen. No, we needed to see Paul Craig versus Shogun Hua twice. God damn it. This is even more important than the Ankalaev Kutalaba trilogy. Okay, and that's saying something. Paul Craig, Elka Cliffy, getting it done. The Dagestani hunter himself. No cliffside is safe. Honestly, no cliffside is safe when Paul Felder is around. Not Paul Felder, sorry. Paul Craig. I'm getting my Pauls mixed up here because Felder just had an amazing performance. But still, I'm going to go with Paul Craig getting this one done by TKO finish. As much as I love the fight with Nogueira and Shogun, it was a close fight. Nogueira could have won that fight. You know what I mean? I'm not going to call it a robbery or anything because it was a close fight, and I can see how the judging would be difficult there because it was a very difficult fight to score because it was just embarrassing. I'm going to say it, man. I love it. And I love that a lot of fans of the sport go, "Oh, the veterans. I'm so happy to see them still doing it." I'm not. It was embarrassing. It's like watching your grandparents go at it. It was like they're slipping all over the place. They're fucking slowing down so quickly in the rounds. I just think Paul Craig's youth is going to be a huge factor here. He almost got the TKO in the first round of the Shogun fight the first time. I think he's going to get it this time by TKO. Also, I thought Paul Craig won that fight by being a little bit more active off of his back, but I think he was too accepting of being on his back because he thought he'd got the job done. I think he should be a little bit more explosive here. Go for the finish. He seems a little bit more switched on early. He's just coming off a first round finish against Gadzi Hermadantigulov. I think he'll get the job done against Shogun Hua by TKO in the first round. He had him in that position in the first fight. He's going to make the adjustments, and Elka Cliffy will reign supreme. Ankalaev, you can't run for long, okay? Craig is coming for the rematch, and that triangle is waiting for your head to be placed perfectly inside of it. Shogun is a dangerous man. I think this is going to be a loss for him. And if Paul Craig wins, I'd love to see an Ankalaev rematch, because that, in any case, even if Ankalaev, I'm not just shitting on Ankalaev here. If Ankalaev beats Paul Craig, That's his one loss on his record, wiped clean. And that's what you want for a guy who's going to try and build a legacy in a weight class. You want them to have a clean record, because otherwise, who knows when we're going to get to see the rematch between them. I think it could be done. I think that also something very likely would be Johnny Walker versus Paul Craig. I could see the UFC salivating over that idea if Paul Craig wins, because Craig has been KO'd a couple of times. He's a little bit chinny. Maybe Walker could catch him with something wild. We'll see what goes down. I think Paul Craig is going to get the job done against Shogun, who are in their fight. Big guy. Seems real dangerous recently. Really has been working on his stand-up. I think he'll get the TKO standing in the first round. Moving on up the card to the next fight on the card, which is Katlyn Chukagian versus Cynthia Calvillo. Good fight as well. Gonna go with Cynthia Calvillo getting a unanimous decision win. I'll break down all of these main card fights in more detail. Maybe Moreno versus Royval as well in that case throughout the week as we go on. But Katlyn Chukagian versus Cynthia Calvillo, dangerous matchup, good for both girls. I think Chukagian might be coming back a little bit too soon after her Andrade loss. I know she got finished to the body, but still, take some time off from that fight camp. Calvillo coming in, she's evolved herself again. And now, and here's the big thing. When people have their first fight up a weight class, it tends not to be the most impressive fight up that weight class. I just want that to be very clear to you guys. When people move up originally into their new weight class, they have a little bit of a feeling out period. In my opinion, Aldo looked better against Jan than he did against Moraes. Even though some people think that he beat Moraes, which I don't think. I think Moraes beat him very clearly rounds 1 and 3. But still, I think Aldo looked a lot more switched on. We've seen this with RDA as well. Moved up a division, had a real tough time in his debut up a division, which I didn't really like, against Safadine, I believe it was, in the welterweight division. Then in his next few fights, once he had adjusted himself to the weight class, he was able to do a little bit better. I think that's going to be the case here with Cynthia Calvillo. She's used to the weight class. She's going to build herself into more of a female flyweight, and I think she's going to have a fun time with Chukagian in a bit of a striking match to begin with at the start of each round. I think the difference in this fight, which is going to lead to a 30-27 unanimous decision win for Cynthia Calvillo, is her takedowns. She's got very good grappling. We saw that against Jessica I in her most recent performance, where she jumped straight from number 15 or 14 in the strawweight division to number 1 in the flyweight division. If that doesn't tell you how shit the flyweight division is, I don't know what will. The strawweight division's very good compared to the rest of the women's divisions, but still, Calvillo will get it done against Chukagian. Chukagian's very good. I just don't see her getting this one against Cynthia Calvillo, in my opinion. Like, Cynthia Calvillo is a very, very dangerous girl. She's got good skills. I know she had a draw to Marina Rodriguez. Fair play. She missed weight in that fight. She missed weight against Casey as well, but, you know, won against Courtney Casey, who's a female flyweight now. Poliana Botello beat her 7-1. 11-2, Joanne Calderwood, another top girl in the flyweight division currently that Cynthia Calvillo has a huge win over, and she's got other wins as well. Montana De La Rosa, Gillian Robertson. How many more flyweights do I have to name here? I'm going with Cynthia Calvillo getting it done. I think she'll finish. Not finish. She'll finish the round strong each time with a good takedown that's going to secure her the round after close stand-up battle. 30-27, Cynthia Calvillo. And if she wins, I don't know what we're going to do with title shot, because Andrade versus Lauren Murphy needs to happen, and the winner of that one's going to want a title shot. So I don't know what we're doing. Maybe feed her another one after this one just to build the name even more. Maybe someone moving down from above or up from below, a little bit of a weird matchup. I don't know what we're going to do with the division. It's very hard to save the flyweight division at the moment, but I'm going to go with Calvillo, 30-27. Moving on up the card, Shogun Hua versus, already done that one, Mike Perry. Platinum Mike Perry versus Tim Means. Now, this is risky. And people are going to sit here and say, why aren't you just picking Mike Perry? I'm picking Mike Perry. But come on, this is very risky. Tim Means business. He does. Like, that's just a fact. He means business. He's a very dangerous man. And I think he's going to have a real good fight against Perry. I think this is going to be a decision. I don't see Means getting KO'd in this fight. I like Mike Perry and I like his KO power, but I know who he's done it against. And Means is not one of those guys. I think that Perry's going to get the job done by unanimous decision. I think a huge factor of that is the fact that Tim Means has taken this fight on short notice. But credit to Tim Means for stepping up and taking this one. But Perry's fight against Mickey Gall was absolutely embarrassing. He didn't have a camp for that fight. Now he's training down at Florida with a good team around him and good camp. I know he wanted to train with Yoel Romero, so he's done some work at ATT. I like Perry when he's got a camp with him. Against Mickey Gall, he looks embarrassing. Just going to point out there, he looked absolutely embarrassing against Mickey Gall, but I think he's going to do it much better because, listen, I remember the Perry that showed up against Luque. Okay, even though he got his nose broken since then, I think Perry's going to go out there, land some good shots, and just eventually, as the fight goes on, maybe lose the first round. He's going to win the second and third. He's very strong. He's going to use those takedowns, get himself some top position in the second and third round, and I think he'll just be able to outwork, with a full camp, Tim Means over 3 rounds, because Means has not got too long to prepare for this. And he's a big welterweight as well, so that weight cut is definitely going to be rough. I'm going with Mike Perry by unanimous decision, 29-28, but I'm worried. I'm so worried for him because he's shit now, but I think he's still good enough to beat Means. But if you're telling me is Perry going to beat Lawler, or maybe Lawler he could beat because Lawler's shit now, but I am not picking Perry over Magny. I'm not picking Perry over Nico Price. Like, there's just a certain level of guy that I'm not going to pick Perry against, and I think that he is going to beat Tim Means on short notice. But full camp Means, I might pick him. You know what I mean? That's the kind of closeness of this fight. I'm going to go with Mike Perry, though, by unanimous decision. Moving on, Shevchenko versus Maia in the co-main event. The flyweight title is on the line. Another Shevchenko sister on the card. Looking forward to this one for many reasons. Valentina Shevchenko's dangerous. But so is Maia. She's got a good submission game. She's fought some good competition. She just submitted Joanne Calderwood, which is not it's not an easy thing to do, don't get me wrong. Like, Shevchenko has been destroying the entire division and even had a close fight with Nunes. I'm going to be picking Shevchenko, of course. It's just, how do I think Shevchenko wins, I think, is really where people are going to try and make money here. I think it will be a decision. I don't see Valentina Shevchenko opting to go to the ground, because when you're so good at striking, why would she? I see this being a bit of a Carmouche-style, boring snooze fest. I think Shevchenko's going to take her 5 rounds and win it unanimously 50-45 in an absolute boring... I don't see excitement in this fight. I don't see Shevchenko dismantling her early. I think Maia's going to stay out of striking range and shoot pathetic takedowns for 5 rounds, get them stuffed and just get barely outstruck on the ground, on the feet. I think Shevchenko will get this one done 50-45. Jennifer Maia's very good, but she hasn't beaten good girls. She lost to Caitlin Chukagian. She lost to Liz Carmouche, who we saw get outstruck by Shevchenko for 5 rounds. She beat Alexis Davis 19-8 and beat Roxanne Modafferi 23-15. The flyweight division is shit, man. I'm talking about this is a title elimination bout right now. This isn't a title elimination bout. This is a title bout. This is a title bout. She's on a 1-fight win streak. And there's a 23-15 girl. It might be a worse record by now in the top 10, man. If that ain't a sign that the flyweight division needs immediate help. I don't know what it is, but Shevchenko's going to win it. She's the queen of a graveyard. I think she'll get it done over Jennifer Maia by unanimous decision, 50-45. Moving on, Divas and Figueiredo versus Alex Perez. Oh, yeah. When you are nice and asleep after the co-main event, I think this one's going to wake you up, because I see Figueiredo doing some damage to Alex Perez. And I know a lot of people are shitting on Figueiredo, but I genuinely believe... And I said this before Ariel Helwani changed his tune. Remember when Figueiredo KO'd Benavidez? All of a sudden, Ariel Helwani, I want to be the first guy on the fan club for Figueiredo. Fuck off. I picked him before that dumb fight, yeah? I've always known about Figueiredo. I've been on the Figueiredo bandwagon since he fought Pantoja. That was an amazing performance. And he broke his thumb in that fight as well and was still slinging him and dropping him with the same hand. I like Figueiredo. He's had an injury against Jussier Formiga that set him back a little bit. Came into that fight, I believe, with a shoulder injury and just couldn't stuff the takedowns and didn't have the explosiveness that he usually does in those scrambles. But we saw in the Benavidez fight afterwards, who's a guy who can handle Formiga on the ground and handle Formiga multiple times, as we've seen him TKO the Formiga. Benavidez went out there, tried to get it done. A lot of people saw Benavidez winning the first fight. I did as well. Statistically, 10-9 Benavidez first round. But Figueiredo had him in all sorts of danger. Landed the bigger shots in that first round, was walking him down. And even in the first fight, which is why I changed my prediction for the second one, I didn't go with the narrative that, this guy got headbutted and then he just didn't know where he was and then got punched. It seemed in the first fight with Figueiredo and Benavidez that it was just a matter of time before Figueiredo got him. And I think it's going to be the same thing here against Alex Perez. I think Perez is going to land some good shots. He has a very good record, 24-5. He's fought a lot of guys. He's very experienced. He's fought good guys as well. He has lost to Joseph Benavidez, which a lot of people will bring up. But still, I do want to make sure I mention this in this video. Joseph Benavidez against Alex Perez. He was going to TKO him, in my opinion. Perez was face down. He was getting hit with big punches. He didn't seem like he was moving. I've never seen, and I'm talking, I've seen Lewis versus Olenek. You know what I mean? I've never seen so many illegal shots to the back of their head in my life. He fired so many illegal shots into the back of Perez's head. The referee is standing there watching it happen. Not at a different angle, can't really see what's going on. He's watching this happen. Hammer fists and big haymaker punches in ground and pound to the back of Perez's head. That's how he got TKO'd. So I'm going to give him credit there. And I'm going to say that on this video so people can know about it. If you want to see a bullshit stoppage, go and watch Perez versus Benavidez. That should have been overturned to a no contest or a DQ win for Perez, in my opinion. Multiple illegal shots. And I mean multiple as in double digits. I'm not joking here. He literally blasted him out with illegal shots to the back of the head. It seemed like it was going Benavidez's way anyway, and he was landing some good shots. I think that Figueiredo's going to land those same good shots, but it's going to be a different reaction from Perez. We've seen him rocked in his career before, but I believe that this fight will be finished by submission to Figueiredo. Perez is a good fighter. I like his last win against Hussier Formiga, and I know a lot of people are going to bring up those calf kicks in that fight, but I'll tell you this. What happened in the Mark De La Rosa one? You know? Very clear win for Alex Perez, don't get me wrong, but where would a debilitating... Like, he landed calf kicks against De La Rosa, landed some good leg kicks. Like, I am very aware that there is a chance factor to calf kicks. Like, you can land 50 on someone and they might not feel a thing, but you can land 2 on someone and they're completely done. Or in Sean O'Malley's case, you can land 1 on someone and they're completely done. Like, it's just, I feel like Alex Perez has fought good guys. His win against Hussier Formiga looks good. I think Moreno should have been given this opportunity, in my opinion. I think he's earned it way more. But they're going with Alex Perez because he's from the Contender Series, so they just love sucking the chodes of every single Contender Series fighter and giving them opportunity after opportunity. I'm going to go with Figueiredo, but I think he rocks Perez. But I think Perez is going to be winning the fight. Here's how I think it goes down. Perez is winning the fight, landing good kicks, maybe a couple jabs here and there, gets hit with a couple of shots, nothing major. Then Figueiredo's going to land the big one. But Perez is going to be ahead on the scorecards in terms of total strikes landed. I think after Figueiredo lands the big shot, which he will, he guaranteed will, Perez, who's a big flyweight cutting down, I don't see him taking that damage. I think he's going to shoot a bad takedown and get guillotine choked, which is something that we've seen in his career before. We saw that against Jared Papazian, got armbarred in the first round. Adam Antolim got prayer choked in the second round. Earlier in his career, he got guillotine choked by Edgar Diaz, the forgotten Diaz brother. I don't even know if he's a Diaz brother. I might have just made that up. He's not a Diaz brother. He just has a surname Diaz. But still, I think that he's going to get guillotine choked in the first round. I don't see a swift KO. I see Figueiredo cracking him, wobbling him, hurting him. Then Perez is going to shoot a bad takedown and get guillotined in the first round by Figueiredo because, like he did to Tim Elliott, you just can't shoot sloppy takedowns on him. And I think Perez is going to try and do that whilst rocked to just try and not get KO'd. It's hard not to fear Figueiredo's power right now. I'm going to go with Figueiredo by first round finish due to a guillotine choke. Thank you for watching. Click that button up there. Goodbye. 37 fucking minutes of rambling. You better like and subscribe. Click that button up there. Goodbye. See you later. Toodle pip.